Hey friends, Kevin here, and in case you happen to have missed it, we recently did a video on a basic solar system in any type of van you're using for van life or travel, whether it's a minivan or cargo van or conversion van. So I'm going to give you a real world example today, which is mine. If you've seen the other video and you understand the concept of all the parts, now you're going to see all of these parts in action and how they work. If you haven't seen the other video, then I'll post a link to it at the end of this video, and you'll have this information plus the other information, and you'll see the main thing, which is this is easy enough that anyone can do it. Or if you choose to have someone do it for you, at least you'll have enough information to know that they're doing it right and that you're not going to be ripped off because they're making you think this stuff is more complicated than it is. Looking at the rear of my van, you can see the two solar panels. We'll go up and take a closer look. Two panels, two 100-watt panels, Renogy brand. It really is that simple. There you can see the mounting brackets. Here you can see this stuff taped down. As I told you in the other video, since we're dealing with a fiberglass roof, although you can do it on metal also, but on fiberglass especially, it's easy to tape these things down as long as you're using the right tape. So we have the tape I told you about mounting these down, and over top of it is this stuff called Eternabond, which just makes it a little more waterproof. Gives you a second little layer of protection. You can see what I'm talking about with this. Highway speeds, bouncing off through the woods. We've now been through a couple of summers with the heat banging down on these constantly, and we've been through a couple of winters where this thing is parked outside all of the time, so they've been covered with snow, covered with ice, and you can see these things aren't coming apart, aren't coming off. And the other thing I hope you noticed is those panels don't sit flat. Each one is at an angle, and they still work perfectly fine. Also, I've never cleaned them off. That's what rain is for. So there's a lot of this stuff that people just go nuts about on forums and worry people to death about and make comments in videos that just aren't true. We just need a basic, simple install that works. So here's how non-perfect this has to be, and please ignore my ugly peeling stripes that will get taken care of, hopefully this summer. But we talked about the nice way to do this, to drill a hole and use this little device so you have a nice clean installation for your wires. And I agree with that, and I have one of those, and that's what I'm going to do. But for now, this is what I've been using. Yeah, it's that simple. See, I have my little wires marked every few inches. It has been like this for 2 years, running through this unused vent because that was the easiest way for me to have access into this van. So the point I'm trying to make is this: you can do this, and it doesn't have to be perfect. People try to make this solar stuff sound way more complicated than it is. If I can do this and throw this up and have a basic installation last for a couple of years, more than 2 years now, that I haven't had to touch and do anything to, then you can do that also. You can probably even do it better than me. So on the inside, my wires ran in. I have this wood cabinet. I had to drill a little hole to run the wires through. These are the wires coming in from the panel. So again, red wire, hot wire, the little red tape, hot wire, black wire in, hot wire and black wire going out. Now, this particular one has settings that change and will tell you what's going on with your system. So I'll let it cycle through. It is close to 7 o'clock in the evening. This is why this amp rating is so low. If we were sitting here at noon in the middle of the day, that amp rating would be going up around 18 or 20. But it is more than fine to be able to run the lights, run the things I need, and run this monster-sized refrigerator. There's also, if you can see it, we're at 36 degrees. That's telling us what it thinks our battery is, which means our batteries are full. I installed a couple of outlets over there, a couple of 12-volt outlets, and a set of USB outlets. Behind this seat that you can't see is my inverter, which I can plug 120 devices into. So I'm covered, either with 5-volt USB or 12-volt auto devices or 120 household devices that I choose to use. The 12-volt compressor fridge is wired straight. This is just a little light that I have. So these wires just run down behind the seat. This seat is pretty much used for storage anyway. I have a crate on it. I'm going to move some of this around in the middle of this trip and change this. But I have storage under this seat. And under the storage under the seat is my battery compartment. And in my battery compartment are my 2 batteries, one of which you can see right there, one of which is hidden from you. Now, these are the cheapo deep cycle lead acid $80 Walmart marine batteries. They've been going for 2+ years now. I don't look for that to change anytime soon. I think I should be able to get at least another year out of them. If I get 3 years out of them, I'm happy. So what do I realistically have in this setup? I have 200-watt panels. I have 2 batteries. The 2 batteries together are probably about 120 amp hour. With lead acid batteries, AGM batteries, you should only take them down to about half of their rated capacity at any time. So using half, that gives me 60 amp hours, more than enough to run the light, more than enough for the couple amps per hour that's going to be used by that fridge. And I still have enough power to charge a laptop if I have a cheapo laptop with me, or charge the phones, or recharge my Kindle to watch television or anything like that. And when people are talking about solar and they're talking about cloudy days, that can happen. And there's some other things you can do to make sure your system's charged on that. But just running a basic fridge, a basic 12-volt compressor fridge, it's never been a problem for me. In the winter, I'm obviously getting less power. If it snows enough, I have gone out and knocked the snow off the panels. If it's just a dusting of snow, half an inch or whatever, it's going to melt off on its own anyway. The thing has never stopped working, and here's why. Because it's colder, the temperature is lower, and it's not going to pull as much power out of your batteries. So when you're running around in the wintertime and it's 65 degrees in your van when you're in there, and the temperature's even lower when you stop or you go in a store or whatever else you may be doing for the day, you need less power to run everything because it's colder. When it's 103 degrees in the summer and it's 118 degrees in your van because you've stopped at Walmart or the dollar store to get supplies, you have full sun beating down on these panels. So yes, your refrigerator is going to run more in the summer, but you're going to have more sun. So it all evens out. It's not as big a worry as a lot of these people make it out to be. As far as maintenance, there really isn't a lot, but this is what I wanted to show you, my little circuit breaker setup. Again, you only need it on 1 wire. And if you're working on solar panels, you want to take the power away from it on a hot day. So you just take a blanket or a sleeping bag and you throw over your solar panels. Now, if I do need to do maintenance to something, all I have to do is click this button, and I have now killed the power going into here. 0.0. Now, I can put that back together, and I have 0.7. You can see we have a little power going into the battery again. So this is why you want to use a circuit breaker instead of fuses, where you have to take this whole assembly apart to change the fuse. If you need to turn something off, you have to disconnect everything, pull the fuse completely out. This makes things simple. So I don't want this video to run long. If you want to see my actual battery setup, one day here soon, I'll take the seat thing apart where I get to it, because even though the batteries are mounted outside where you make the connections, you actually have to go through the inside. The way this conversion van was made. You have space under the seat, and you remove the floor under there where there's a floor that goes down into this underneath cavity, and that it's where you make all of your connections to the top of the battery or batteries that you're using for storage. And this is the main thing. You'll see a link popping up here, and there'll be one in the description too to that other video where I went through and explained everything. The parts we're talking about will be linked down in the description. It's not hard. You can do this. Anybody can do this. Anybody can install one of these systems. So don't listen to all the naysayers. Don't listen to the people that, just like the ones that deal with computer problems or heat pumps in houses or whatever, mechanics for cars. If they can make this sound really, really complicated, then you'll open your checkbook and you'll give them a lot of money. And there's nothing wrong with that if you have the money and you just want to avoid that hassle. But even then, you should know the basics of what is going on, just to know that the people you hired are doing it right. Let me know if you want to see other solar stuff, because I can get into solar bills and things specific to a minivan. These same ideals convert over to that, however, except you're going to have one panel on a minivan because that's basically all the space you have. You're probably only going to have one storage battery on a minivan, but again, it's going to be enough to power lights, charge your phones, and run a 12-volt compressor fridge if that's what you choose to do. And the other thing that ends up being done with these in the summertime, which is fine because again, you have more sun, you're pulling more sun into the system and more sun in your storage batteries, is making sure you have enough power to be able to power a fan all night long, so you have some air movement in your van and you can be comfortable. I appreciate you watching. I hope this helped you out. We'll talk soon.